And go. Hi everyone, Adrian here from the Black Heart Red Spade podcast. Today I've got a very special guest, another one who goes way back. My dear friend and former trainer, Marco Wentzel. Marco is a kettlebell coach, among other things. He's a strength and conditioning coach. He has coached some of the top sports people in South Africa, among others, the former heavyweight MMA champion, Rico Hattingh. Rico was, at that particular point in time, virtually unstoppable in the South African arena. Marco also practices Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, something that we both love doing. He actually planted the seed in my head to look at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as my future martial arts. And eventually, 3 or 4 years later, I actually took up Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I've loved it ever since. Marco is definitely someone whom I would call an optionalista. The things that I've learned from him over the years, not only from a training perspective, but also from a philosophical perspective and an intellectual perspective, have been incredibly invaluable to me. And that is why I invited him on board and to have a chat. One of the things that I've always felt is that when you speak with people from a variety of backgrounds, you learn so much more and you broaden your horizons. And that is why I always welcome having people from so many different areas of life to contribute their optionalistas, their optionality, and how they became optionalistas. So Marco, without further ado, welcome. Please tell us a bit more about yourself.
Thank you very much, Adrian. Yeah, as you said, I am a personal trainer, and my claim to fame was in the beginning with kettlebells in South Africa, before it became mainstream. But now kettlebells are like totally mainstream. Everybody knows about kettlebells, and everybody practices it.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. I mean, when we started training with you, it was very much a new thing at that particular point in time. And I'll never forget how bloody sore I was the next day after training with you. I actually hated you for at least a day, just for a day, in a very friendly kind of way, I might add. But I could barely even walk. And one of the things that really stuck out about kettlebell training, and why I think it's one of those optionality instruments, if I can call it that, is because it works so damn well. And you don't need, I mean, let's look at the swing, for example. If you just do a kettlebell swing, or if you do a kettlebell get up, and even a snatch, I mean, I don't quite know about snatches, but I suppose snatches can add a lot of optionality to you. But let's just go with a kettlebell swing and the kettlebell get up. Those two exercises add an immense amount of optionality. I mean, I would like you to build onto that, in terms of what your thoughts are and how they build optionality for people.
Just with those two exercises, you cover so much ground, because you're building your core, you're building your explosive power, you're building your endurance. I mean, it's freaky. For the exercise like the swing, I mean, it's very rarely that you get an exercise that helps marathon runners run a faster marathon, and it also helps a powerlifter to deadlift more. I mean, that is about almost as wide as an extreme as you can get, because those two sports are so far from removed as what you can get. The one is an extreme endurance sport, and the other one is like an extreme strength and power sport. So, and a kettlebell helps them both.
Yeah, it is actually quite ridiculous to see that. And the other thing about the get up that I noticed over the years is that it not only improves your core strength but also your flexibility. Is this something that you also incorporate for your own clients when you do coaching sessions for them?
Yes, I do like to use the get up. The get up also actually helps a lot for shoulder stability, because it teaches you how to pack the shoulder properly under load. And when you train that, it actually helps people how to maintain the correct posture under load. Very good exercise. And also it helps people to concentrate, to stay tight during a movement. That is
Ah,
also something that needs to be practiced. It's kind of like a bit, if I can use a loose analogy, it's a bit like with a strongman events, where a guy has to pick up a big boulder and he's got to walk from this point over there all the way to over there and chuck it into a big barrel or something. You first got to have the strength to lift the rock. Then when you have lifted the rock, you got to maintain that tightness while you're walking over to get to where you get. So it's like a whole different type of mindset. It's not just lift it up and put it down and then game over. The get up helps with that type of thinking, if I can call it like that. It keeps you engaged for a much longer period of time than just lift the weight up and put it down.
so it's got a meditative aspect to it as well then, if you can look at it from that perspective.
Yeah, you can definitely say that, because especially when you start working with the heavier and heavier weights, you need to learn to be able to relax, not relax as in like switch your muscles off. You need to be able to be comfortable in your mind. That's basically what I mean. You need to learn to be comfortable in your mind while you are taking the strain, because if you cannot handle the stress, you will not be able to handle the success once you've lifted the heavy weight. The one helps you with the other one.
It's actually a good point that you made there. And, you know, it reminds me of some of the training sessions that we've had with you, which I always found very unconventional at times. You know, none of them were just average sessions where you just go into a gym, push some weights, and that's it. You would make us do piggyback races between lampposts, push the car. Oh my gosh, you know, did I secretly swear at you underneath my breath at that particular point, especially when I got very tired? I knew it was working, but my muscles were hating me. And when my muscles started hating me, well, they started disliking you as well. But it was all good. I mean, it's all good fun. But stuff like that definitely does build real world strength. And I feel that there's a massive difference between functional real world strength and gym strength. I think there's a massive difference between the two. And one of the exercise forms that I've noticed really points out how strong or weak you are is gymnastics rings. My goodness.
Oh, yeah. Whoa.
I mean,
You know what they say? They
yeah,
say
go ahead.
They say that you could basically in any neighborhood or whatever, you could walk around and you could find somebody that could maybe bench 1.5 times to maybe even twice his body weight. But look around and see how difficult it is to be able to find somebody that can hold that position in the gymnastic rings.
The Iron Cross, yeah.
Yes.
And I'm not saying this is a braggy thing. I have been able to do an Iron Cross before. And, you know, the longest that I've held it was 5 seconds. And I kid you not, it literally felt as if my muscles were being ripped out of my sockets. And
it
that's
is extremely difficult.
Extremely. And that's only a B level move, by the way. It goes all the way from A to G or A to F. I'm not sure, but it's only a B level move in gymnastics terms. And one of the things that I found with gymnastics rings, for instance, is what they do is they are brutally honest in terms of pinpointing your weaknesses. It's for the upper body. And this is where I agree with a guy called Ido Portal. Not for the sake of agreeing, but because I've actually found this to be the case, that for optionality in terms of what they provide for your upper body, you can't beat gymnastics rings. I genuinely don't think you can beat them.
Definitely.
In terms of strength and carryover strength. I mean, as you rightfully pointed out, you can maybe bench 150 kilograms for argument's sake, but it doesn't even mean you can do a top body support hold, where you just push yourself up and hold a support hold. And I've seen this multiple times at gym, for instance, where I would be training rings and stuff and do a support hold. And you see some big guys, it looks like they've actually got steroid drips attached to them, like they're walking with these little sticks with their steroid drips, in terms of they've got muscles on their muscles on their muscles. It literally looks like they're just eating muscle all day. No disrespect to anyone. I'm just saying that's what they look like. They look like the embodiments of strength. And then you ask Then they say, oh, well, can I give this a try? I said, sure, why not? You're welcome to. Can't even do a top body hold. And that's literally the starting point of being able to do something like gymnastics rings, and that led me to the conclusion that for the most part, not always, but for the most part, if you can't even do a top body hold, on a set of gymnastics rings, how strong are you really? Because
in that move, yeah, it would
yeah,
obviously show your strength in that move, in that particular move, if you're interested in gymnastics.
yeah, because what it does is that it highlights all your weaknesses in your elbows, in your shoulders, in your wrists, and all that stuff. And that was a massive eye opener for me, because when I did it the first time, I thought, I was strong. I wasn't. It took a lot of effort for me to be able to actually do that. And it brings me to my point, to the point which also follows up into your next question, that how did you actually get into kettlebells and discover that they would give you all this optionality and everything else that goes along with it? Because it's not, as you said, it's not something that was mainstream at that particular point in time, and it's so easy to fall into the complacency route of I'm good at what I do, why should I do anything else?
Yes. Well, way back when, I don't know if you remember when EAS still used to have that body transformation competitions.
Oh yeah, Bill Flynn's thing. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, Bill Phillips. Anyway, that
Bill
was like in
Bill
the,
Phillips. That's one.
that's
That's
it,
one.
Bill Phillips. He used to have that body transformation competitions, and then sometime after that, he got Pavel to start writing some articles for his magazine about kettlebells, and along with all sorts of other training, like more like powerlifting, like type style, what Pavel would do. And he would have like a column, and he would write something about what he would think is better about this. And people would ask him questions like, my back hurts, what can I do if I squat and it's sore? And then he would leave like something like, he would say like, okay, well, why don't you try rather doing this, because they found in Russia some of the lifters do that. And that was very interesting. I really enjoyed that. But for me, the main thing that set it off and got my head turning is when I read about the study that they conducted in Russia, where they had two groups of people, and the one group, they got trained. They had this group do pull-ups and sit-ups and push-ups, and the other group only did kettlebells. That's all they did. And then after the, however long the period of time was, whether it was 3 months or 6 months, I can't remember that. But the point is, when they brought these two groups together, the group that trained kettlebells outperformed the group that did the exercises on which both groups were tested. So everybody had to do pull-ups and push-ups. Everybody had to do that, but only this group trained on pull-ups and push-ups. This group just did kettlebells. And the kettlebell group outperformed the other group. So then my mind went like, then why the hell am I doing push-ups and pull-ups? Why don't I just do kettlebells? I mean, if this has a greater transfer, what am I doing with this stuff?
No, yeah, wow.
That got my mind thinking, because if it had such a great carryover, it's got to be like useful for lots of things, right? And yeah, actually, it is useful for lots of things.
I mean, what you just described is exactly what I look for in terms of optionality, and what in trading terms we call it a payoff profile. So it looks. I always say that if you have a positive payoff profile that looks like this, where you pay your premium in terms of your risk management, in terms of your exertion that you put in, but your payoff profile looks like that, then obviously it's a good. Because if I can put it this way, exercising is like trading in so many ways. You're trading your energy and you're trading your time for a bit, and you're obviously managing your risk by the amount of weight that you lift, by the form that you choose, how often you train, and all that stuff. So there's a lot of overlapping qualities between the two disciplines, even if it's not always that apparent to people. So I've concluded that if you have a payoff profile that looks like what's called a long put option, where the premium that you pay is the flat part, but the benefit that you gain is the upslope of the curve, then of course that is a good trade to make. And there obviously are exercises out there that have the payoff profile of a long call option, but there are also the ones that have the opposite payoff profile, where this is essentially the gain. So your gain is minimal, but your downside is maximal. And that is like the difference that we spoke of earlier before we recorded of between convexity and concavity. And I would like to hear your thoughts on, with all your experience over the years in a variety of disciplines and stuff. What do you, and it doesn't matter, and to anyone viewing this is obviously Marco's opinion. We're not going on semantics over every little detail over here, but I would like to know from your opinion, what if you notice to be the more convex forms of training, whether it be exercises or sports or whatever, versus the more concave ones? I would really like to get your thoughts on this, because it's something that I would like to learn more about myself.
Well, I would definitely say that kettlebells is a big payoff exercise with minimal risk. Depending on what kettlebell exercises you do and how you do them, that's obviously why you have an instructor, as like why you would have a trader. I mean, otherwise then I'll just close my eyes and throw a dart at the board and buy whatever where it lands.
Yeah.
And I would also just like to ask you, how did you get into trading? What made you decide to go into trading?
No, I'm glad you asked the question, because as I said, that's how I like to engage with my guests. Is I welcome questions being asked. This is not a normal interview where I'm the one asking the questions and you answer them. So thanks for that. I appreciate it. I got into trading a number of years ago when I went on a spiritual journey called the Mankind Project, of all things. I don't know if you would have heard of the Mankind Project.
No.
It's a thing where men connect with one another. It's kind of spiritual journey and stuff. So people, I'm not a hippie. I swear, I really am not a hippie. Just saying. I met a guy.
Nothing wrong with being a hippie. I mean, if you're a hippie, you're a hippie. There's nothing wrong with it.
No. Of course,
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying I'm not I'm not loopy loo or anything like that. That's all that I mean. But it's this kind of thing where men connect, and it always resembles something similar to the initiation into manhood. So whether you're 18 or 28 or 38 or whatever, it's based on a lot of Native American principles. And it's also where men connect for the weekend to address deep things that are deep inside them. Like your shadow. You learn about your shadow side and your golden side, which is based on a lot of Jungian psychology. By Carl Jung. So I looked at that, and I didn't quite know what it was at that stage, but I recognized afterwards, when I did a bit more digging, that it's based on Jungian psychology. And Carl Jung is a fascinating guy. If you want to learn more about your mind and more about, just how your freaking mind works, read a bit of Carl Jung. It's quite fascinating and quite eye-opening. But there was a guy as part of the group who happened to be a trader, and we took a liking in one another and, became friends. And I actually taught him kettlebells because he wanted to improve. Okay. He wanted to improve his fitness for cycling because he's big into his mountain biking. And
so his need was he wanted to be able to jack up his cycling, and kettlebells obviously fixed that for him.
That helped him a lot. He wanted to lose some weight, but he also wanted to improve his power. So he said he improved his power and stuff. And we were chatting about his job. He's a trader, he's a stockbroker, all those things. And he said, he said, I didn't know you had an interest in this stuff. I said, yeah, I did. He said, well, I'll happily help you get into this. So, it sort of became like a mutually beneficial kind of thing where he helped me to land a job in the industry, got my exams and all that kind of stuff, and I learned the ropes. And that's how I ended up getting into it, was because of the connection we made over there. Kettlebells was the thing that accelerated, that pretty much promoted me as a person, but also open up the doors for me. So it's like what Steve Jobs always said, you don't know how you can't connect the dots going forward. You can only connect them going backwards. And funny enough, the fact that I trained with you and the fact that I learned all these things and all these skills open up the doorway to my new career, which is not a conventional path by any means. But you, my friend,
No.
had an indirect influence on the fact that I became the person that I am today because of the things that you taught me. And do you see what I mean now by saying that that is what optionality does? I gained optionality from doing an exercise that was built to create optionality. And in doing so, I created more optionality for myself in other ways, which is why I am where I am today. And this is all new to me as well. I mean, I quite honestly, with these podcasts, I don't even know what the hell I'm doing a lot of the time. I'm still learning a lot. I'm still, making a few mistakes along the way. Sometimes I forget to ask certain questions and all that stuff. But that's the trading led to the podcast now. And the podcast will probably lead to more opportunities as I go along as well. But I don't know how the dots will connect, but that's okay. I just trust and believe that they will connect. And yeah,
That is
sorry.
one thing why I think that that's one thing that I like about jiu-jitsu. And I don't know if it's like that with you as well, but it's in jiu-jitsu, it's almost exactly like that, is that you don't exactly know when the opportunity is going to happen or how the opportunity is going to happen, but it is going to happen. You just need to be engaged and just go for it, but something will come up.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, you've done jiu-jitsu for a while longer than I have. And, I would like to have your thoughts on what you think of the martial arts and how it's influenced your life and, optionality that it's created for you in a variety of aspects.
Oh, I love the way the jiu-jitsu basically helps you to change your mindset. It starts to give you like a little bit of a bigger mindset, kind of like with that exercises that I've did with you that totally sucked, like pushing the car and piggybacking your buddy up and down the road. I mean, let's be honest, it really sucks. There's nothing nice about it. It's really difficult. It's really uncomfortable.
But it works.
But it works. But that's the thing. It really works. That suck, that discomfort makes you stronger. And not just does it make you stronger that you can, push the car faster or carry an even bigger person. It does something in your mind where it starts to create the type of belief in yourself that you're actually a lot stronger than what you thought you were. And that when you're faced with something that's really difficult, you kind of like go in your head, well, I did push the car 2 kilometers last time. So, I guess if I have to jump over this fence and fight off that Rottweiler and go save that kid, I think I should be able to do that. It creates that kind of belief, because belief needs to be built on something. If I say to you, go on top of a skyscraper building and stand on the edge and just trust me, you're going to be okay. Chances are that you're not going to do it because you have no trust in me, because trust is earned. Why would you trust me? Just because I say that you're not going to fall doesn't mean you won't fall.
Yeah.
No, and jiu-jitsu helps you to build trust in handling discomfort, because especially if you roll with heavy guys, they smash you. I mean, that guy just smothers you, and they just, everything that can bend and twist gets twisted and bended.
Well, you always had the reputation at the Gracie studio that rolling with you is like rolling with a Coke machine. That's what that's what a guy called Ty always used to say. I don't know if you remember Ty, Tyron or whatever his name was. but I did ask him, do you know Marco? He said, yeah, do I know Marco? Rolling with him is like rolling with a Coke machine. It's impossible to move him. So, and funny enough, I don't want to stop your trajectory. Please keep going. I'm interested in this, so carry on.
Well, the thing about the jiu-jitsu is that I've found that I actually, it sounds a bit masochistic to say it, but I don't know how to get around it. is I find that I enjoy that getting thrashed and smashed and squashed, and I enjoy that. The same way I'm thinking, the same way you really enjoy mental challenges. That's why you
Mm,
did that gymnastic ring type of stuff, because it is really next level hard. You got to like really start to apply this if you want to do that. You don't just grab the rings and go. And
mm,
you have to come back to it time and time and again. And slowly over time, you get better at it. Progressively over time, you get better at it, better at it, better at it. But it takes a long time and a lot of effort.
oh yeah, no, I fully agree with you. And one of the things that I found about jiu-jitsu and gymnastics rings is that I'm not saying and you know, whatever I'm going to say over here is not to blow my own horn, but just to show how the carryover effects actually take place. I started using these things called the Captains of Crush grippers
Oh,
for
yes,
those
I've heard of them.
for those who can see it. Best tool
Very
for
good for the
my
grip strength.
best tool that I ever developed for my hands. Another thing that provided optionality, massive optionality. So much so to the point that I became known as Iron Claw at the Renzo Gracie studio, and Grip King at the Gracie certified studio. So what I would, for instance, do is I would go up against brown and purple belts. I would just grab them by the wrists and just hold them like that. And these guys would be absolutely perplexed, as in, how do I get out of this? And I would just hold, and I would literally hold like that for 5 minutes. I kid you not. And I would not get tired. I would not let go. And sometimes I would find a way to break the grip, but other times, I remember this purple belt guy who would roll with me, and he just said, Jesus, rolling with you is like having a shut door. You know, I can't get out of it. You know, I need to find a way to get through the locks. And he said, and I said, yeah, but isn't that just a pointless way to roll? He says, no, for you to have a stalemate against me is still a stalemate. It doesn't matter. He says, because someone did this to me in real life, I'm in trouble, regardless of whether I know how to utilize techniques or not. My techniques are you. It says by doing that, you essentially neutralized a lot of my techniques.
That's very true.
And I said to him, I never thought of it that way. But he said, yeah, essentially, you as a high-level white belt just went and absolutely neutralized my purple belt techniques. And unless I found a way to get through that and then use my other techniques that you don't know on you, it didn't mean anything. So I didn't even appreciate at that particular point in time how much optionality these little things could actually give you just by having superior hand strength. And the thing about jiu-jitsu that I love, though, is that I've gone to get up against guys who are smaller than myself, but so freaking skilled and stuff, and I just couldn't beat them. You know, I just absolutely couldn't beat them. And I've gone up against guys who are much bigger than myself. I like to use this example that I, for instance, had a guy 6'4", about 120 kgs, big fellow. Still a newbie, very much a newbie at the art. I mean, if this was a purple or brown belt, I would have been absolutely decimated. Even a blue belt at that weight would be a nightmare to go up against. But because he was a newbie and I was a bit more skilled, I dominated. It was literally no issue. And I think that's what Jocko Willink also said. Jocko Willink, for those who don't know, is a former Navy SEAL who's got one of the biggest podcasts in the world, and he's a black belt to the 3rd or 4th degree or something ridiculous like that. And for a Navy SEAL to go and say that jiu-jitsu is a superpower, then you know that there is really something to it. He said out of all the martial arts that he's ever done, though, none of them have been as humbling as what jiu-jitsu is. And he said, for instance, even when he was a Navy SEAL, that this Master Chief guy who trained them, and he was this was in the early 90s, pre-UFC. This guy was a high-level white belt, and he just toyed with him. He said that they were literally just these rag dolls compared to this older guy in his 40s or 50s or so. And they were all these big, strong guys thinking that they knew. He said even with his basic level white belt, white belt, high level white belt training, he absolutely dominated them. And I think that's what jiu-jitsu did for me as well, is that it gave me a lot of optionality, because even with what I know, and I don't even know close to everything, I know that the odds of someone being able to you might be able to overpower me strength-wise, but the odds are that I know at least 50 different ways to be able to submit you in some way or form, where I can nullify your power and I can nullify your strength. And I'm not a big guy. And the same goes for anyone. You can be smaller than what I am, and the same would apply, because jiu-jitsu has that much of a superpower effect, because it works. It genuinely works, but it also humbles you, because you realize that when you get on the mat with a guy who's far more superior, it doesn't matter what you think you know, he's going to... It's that kind of smashing, and it's that disheartening aspect that you spoke of that I also love, because it tears down the ego. It literally tears down the ego to such a point where you realize that whatever I think I know is clearly useless against this guy. And as Jocko also mentioned, that if he gets you in a rear naked choke, for instance, it's this one where you hold like that.
Oh yeah, then it's game over.
You know, for everyone, Matalion, you know, unless you find a way to get out of that, you know, before the choke is locked in, then you're pretty much done. So you have to tap out. But as Jocko said, there's a very primal thing about jiu-jitsu as well, because deep down, you know that if that guy wanted to freaking kill you or break your neck, he could do it in that given moment.
Oh yeah, you can feel it.
You can feel it. There is nothing soft about jiu-jitsu, and I've been talking way too long now. This is more about you, but I think I would like your thoughts on this as well in terms of your rolling, because something that I found is that jiu-jitsu it's a gentle art, but it's not a soft art. It's far from soft.
Very true.
And no. I've had some bruises and stuff as well. And I've had occasions where I felt my neck was going to be snapped off my head, you know, from... Yeah. So yeah, please carry on. I've been talking way too much now.
Well, it's good. It means you're learning. It means you're learning, because every time you speak and you listen and the person says something back, you learn something from that. The thing for me about the jiu-jitsu that is so impressive, especially when you meet a very skilled smaller guy, it's like that scenario where, you know, you stand there and you look at this little guy and you think, oh, geez, you know, I could totally just sort this out if I ever wanted to. But then you obviously don't know how good his jiu-jitsu is. And then you go on the mat, and then 3 minutes later, and you think to yourself, oh my Lord, am I glad I never in real life picked a fight with this guy, because he would just mop the floor with me. What that basically does is like that thing we were talking about where your mind has been conditioned. I look you up and down and I think, oh, yeah, you're not going to be in much trouble. I'll quickly sort you out, because my mind is conditioned. When someone looks like this, they're capable of doing this. So I'll just quickly dispense with you and be over with it. But then obviously I don't know how highly skilled trained you are in jiu-jitsu. And then the possibilities open up and I realize like, wow, okay, you know, someone doesn't have to be 6'4", 120 kilos in order to be able to like take me apart. They can actually be a lot smaller if they have the right knowledge, if they have the right know-how.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
One of my favorite grapplers to watch is Marcelo Garcia.
I've seen some of his stuff. Amazing guy.
Sure. I mean, when you look at him, just physique-wise, you think like, yeah, okay, shouldn't be that tough, shouldn't be that hard.
Yeah, but even if you look at some of the members of the Gracie family, like Hiron Gracie or Ehene Gracie, for instance, you know, the grandsons of Elio, I mean, they're athletic guys, don't get me wrong, but if you look at them, you don't think, wow, these are killing machines, no,
it doesn't look like a big threat.
They don't look like a massive threat at all. And yet, if you get on the... I mean, I met Hiron Gracie about 3 years ago. Lovely, lovely, lovely guy. And quite honestly, there's something scary about him as well. Despite the fact that he's such a chilled guy, he has this aura of, look, if you really want to go there, it's your funeral. It's that kind of aura. But he doesn't sit there and project it onto you or anything. It's just you feel it. You can feel that this guy has got a quiet confidence about him that he doesn't need to brag, he doesn't need to show off or anything. But you know that if he goes for you, if you make an attempt on this guy, you're as good as dead. And I think that's one of the things that Joe Rogan pointed out on his podcast as well, and why I like. It doesn't have to be jiu-jitsu. It can be most martial arts, as long as let me rather put it this way: effective martial arts, like your Krav Maga, Muay Thai to an extent, even judo. Judo, wrestling, boxing, all those things.
Yes.
I mean, I just prefer jiu-jitsu because I don't like getting hits in the face. Quite honestly.
Agree. I always say, as soon as you get over the age of 30, being punched in the nose stops becoming fun.
Yeah, and also exactly. And the thing is, though, I want to keep this. This is my livelihood, quite honestly. So I prefer not. And it's not a good look if you go see clients and you've got a black eye or a skew nose and
broken nose or something like that,
chipped lip or anything like that. You look like a bit of a bruiser. So you can have bruises on other parts of your body, but just don't have them here. That's also, what
interesting. The thing is also is that the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu actually has more of a calming effect on the personality over time. You learn to calm down and not be just like, for example, whereas when you do kickboxing and boxing, it's all about just getting that first knockout strike. You want to get there and you want to get it now, like as soon as possible. Let's go now. Whereas with jiu-jitsu, it's like this, if you really want to go there, we can travel there. It's going to take a while, but I can get there. But so you're not quick to jump the gun.
I found exactly the same effect as well. And it's really interesting you mentioned that, because when I did Muay Thai and a bit of boxing and stuff, I was quick off the draw. If someone wanted to start with me, I would be ready for you to go step up and like, oh, okay, you want to do this. You really want to do this. Now with jiu-jitsu,
yes,
it's a case of, we can go there, but do you really want the consequences of what's about to follow? I don't think you really do. And this brings me to my point where Joe Rogan also said, and this is why I like the optionality that something like jiu-jitsu provides, is that he said you don't realize how vulnerable you are as an average person against someone else. He said the average person has no clue how incredibly vulnerable they are whenever they mess with someone else. And the reason being is you don't know who you're screwing with. You just don't know. That guy could be...
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea what your level of experience in something is. I mean, it's like I said, you're standing and you look this guy up and down, you think, oh, he doesn't look that intimidating, oh, I'll just sort him out. You have no idea this guy's some black belt jiu-jitsu expert with years and years of competition experience. And he looks like nothing.
Even without competition experience, I think you'd still be a nightmare to go up against. You look at guys like Henry Gracie and Huron Gracie, as I said, with one competition to each of their names, and yet those guys are literally killing machines. Nicest of people, but absolute killing machines because of the fact that they practice self-defense. And the same applies to a variety of other people out there. You could be going up against a guy of 5'6", but he's a professional boxer. So one punch from a guy like that to your ribs, you will actually go down. If it's like a liver punch or any of those things. And a lot of the times you find it's not always the case across the board, but many times you find that the higher up people go in their ranking, the more chilled out they become about who they are. They don't feel this need. They don't feel this need to prove to you that they are tough. They don't feel this need to show you what they can do and all that. They just know what they can do. And
because their experience have been, their self-confidence have been built on their experience. Their experience is already on the hard drive. They don't have to walk around with it on a placard and show you, oh, look how tough I am. Look how tough I am. They know it.
No. And that carries over to other aspects of your life. And it's like what this other guy, Rodney King, not the civil rights guy, to anyone who's wondering. Rodney King is a South African martial arts coach who created what's called the Crazy Monkey Defense System. He was also
Oh,
funny
yes,
enough.
up in Joburg.
Yeah. He was the first black belt in South Africa, and he trains under a guy called Higan Machado. I think he's a 3rd or 4th degree black belt. He's the highest ranking guy in South Africa. And he said that the idea behind what I do is not to create mere champions on the mat, but off the mats. He said, because you spend far more time off the mats than what you do on the mats. And I want to create champion. He said, I want to create champions in life, not just in the ring. And that's why he doesn't even focus on competitions and stuff. He said, my guys, they're free to compete if they want, but I don't openly endorse competition. And he said, and I don't think that competition necessarily makes you a better practitioner. And I kind of agree with him in that aspect, because there is a big difference between competing on the mat and competing in real life. Huge bloody difference. And I can use an example, for instance, that, if you do, to those of you who don't know what a triangle choke is when you bring your leg across, you overhook it like that, and it's a squeeze to the person's neck. Because what most people don't realize about chokes in jiu-jitsu is that you don't cut off the airflow, you cut off the blood flow. So that's why it's so much quicker. You can literally choke someone else in 7 seconds. Now imagine as a woman, the optionality that gives you to go up against a far bigger assailant and being able to choke them out in 7 seconds or 7 or 8 seconds, depending on how long it takes, as opposed to trying an air choke or something which requires a lot more power. And this literally requires minimal power to exert. In fact, it requires almost nothing. And that's why I like martial arts, because it cultivates a different mindset. It does cultivate a sense of confidence. And to me, confidence is not about being the biggest or the strongest or the richest or the most powerful. Confidence is just another word for saying, I've got this. I can handle this. That's essentially what confidence is. And it doesn't mean you become, and there's a huge misconception with martial artists. Sometimes when I tell people I like jiu-jitsu and stuff, oh, so you enjoy fighting? No,
yes.
I don't enjoy fighting.
No, I don't.
Because I can tell you what, because I know, having sparred on, but that's just sparring on the mat. Oh, really? That's just sparring on the mat. I always say, that jiu-jitsu is one of the few martial arts where you literally train the way you fight. You literally train the way you would fight in real life. It's not just like normal other ones where it's tap, tap, and this and that or the other when you start off. From day one, when you spar, you literally learn to train the way you fight. And that is what the Navy SEALs always say. You fight the way you train. So therefore, in jiu-jitsu, you train the way you fight. Because if you were to go and train in a much softer kind of capacity, how will you know how to act when real life actually comes? And, you have to step up that game all of a sudden and, go for it. How will you know how to do that if you've never trained to be able to do that? And I think that's one of the things.
Yeah, because you fall to the level of your training.
Exactly. 100%. And I think that's what jiu-jitsu has done for me. It's actually made me a better trader as well, because I've learned how to manage the pressure. Sometimes it literally feels like your head is in a vice grip, or there's that 120 plus kg guy sitting on your chest, and you've got to find a way to get out of that situation. But
you got to think, what are you going to do now?
This is where the mental aspect comes into it as well. And it's helped me considerably to be able to pivot through these kind of moves and stuff. And something that I've also noticed is whenever I've shown some people moves and things, like, for instance, when they sit in a mount position, and getting into the mount position is one of the most feared situations to be in, when someone has you in the mount. And no, people, any dirty-minded folks out there, it's not that kind of mount we're talking. It's sitting on your chest and literally having your face open to be smashed. And this is not about violence or anything, but it's just reality, where you can find a way to get out of that kind of situation and return to a more advantageous position. There are actually ways and means of doing that, and jiu-jitsu shows you exactly how to do that, how to get out of bad situations and overturn them into more favorable ones for you. And I know I've been talking about jiu-jitsu ad infinitum and stuff, but I cannot recommend it highly enough to virtually anyone. And in my humble opinion, if every child knew jiu-jitsu, that bullying would almost cease to exist. It would virtually almost cease to exist, because you're not going to pick on someone who knows how to defend themselves, quite honestly.
Yeah, there'd there'd be a lot less vulnerable people. That's true,
Mm.
which would make the bullying a lot less, because let's face it, no, a bully doesn't actually really want a fight. A bully wants a nice soft target.
Exactly. And there's a guy called Jordan Peterson who pointed out that there's a big misconception about bullying, for instance, regarding the fact that they've got low self-esteem and all that. He said that's actually not true, that they have high enough self-esteem to feel that they can go and pick on you in the first place. And we're not talking about school bullies over here. We're just talking about bullies in real life, because you know that bullying doesn't stop just because you leave school. You know, you find it in the workplace. You find it all over the show. You know, it's a very I wouldn't say human thing, but it's sort of like an innate thing where you find that certain people, if they see weakness in others, they want to go and exploit it. You know,
They go for it.
They go for it, and that's something that I saw in dogs. Dogs, for instance, also have this kind of thing, but humans have something very similar to as well at times, where you want to go and exploit that weakness in other people. And if you have some sort of inner strength to give you that optionality to stand up to it, then that does put you in a much better position to be not only calmer under pressure, but also more composed under pressure, because you don't want to come across as someone who's volatile. You know, it's better to be more placid and like a wave, so to speak.
So you need to maintain that calm placidness while the markets are volatile.
Oh, geez, hell, definitely. But with markets, the other thing that I've noticed is that you need to find what works for you. You need to find your style of trading that works for you. It doesn't help. So you get different styles of trading. You get day trading, you know, where all your positions are open and closed in one day. You get swing trading, which can be over the course of a week or a month or whatever. Position trading, which is longer term. And what it's scalping, where it's literally in and out, in and out, in and out, you know, like for a few seconds or something like that, or even a few minutes. Yeah, there are many different styles of trading. And then you get obviously investments. Investments is more of a longer term kind of thing. But you need to find what works for you. And if you are a better swing or position trader, but you have it in your mind, I want to be a scalper or I want to be a day trader, I'm sorry, but you are going to get busted up. And I've been through that myself, is that I also had to learn which style works for me. I'm a horrible day trader. I tried day trading, but I'm a terrible, terrible day trader. I mean, some days there are optimal conditions for it. But if you look at my average of day trading, I'm horrible at it. But if you look at my position trading and investment and stuff, my record is a lot better in terms of how I did over there. But it's not as exciting. It's not as adrenaline fueled and all that stuff. So if you, and that's something that I had to learn along the way as well, that if you want high octane adrenaline fueled and stuff, don't do trading. You know, there are easier ways to lose your money and better ways to lose your money. Rather go spend that money on horses or something like that. You know, at least you get to ride the horse every once in a while, as opposed to getting ridden by the market, which is a lot less fun than riding. Which is a lot less fun than riding a horse. You know, they both cost you a lot of money, but at least the horse gives you some pleasure, whereas the market gives you zero pleasure. You know, and that's why I said it's very key to find your own style and find what works for you, and don't keep bashing your head against the wall just because you feel that you are adamant that that's what you want to do and that's what's going to work for you. And there's something that you taught me many years ago during one of your sessions. You might not even remember the fact that you said this, but you said that knowledge is not worth having if it cannot be shared.
That is very true. I remember that. That is very true. Because the value comes from sharing. That's basically where the value comes from.
I would like you to expand more upon that, Marco. You know, because we've been talking about all these martial arts and things and, you know, our backgrounds and stuff, but I would like to know more about your philosophy. You know, what makes you tick? Because you have so much insight, and it takes a very enlightened, special kind of person to say that knowledge is not worth having if you can't share it. That's not something that everyone just goes and says. So you clearly have a strong core philosophy behind you. to have that kind of mentality.
It might not be something that you sort of like verbally hear a lot, but when you think about it, it's like, and I mean, right now we're in the perfect situation for it with this COVID-19 thing. I mean, just feel what it feels like, that everything is so secluded and isolated, and there's no real social sharing going on. It really sucks. It sucks the lifeblood out of everything, out of enjoyment, out of happiness, out of learning, out of everything. It really sucks because there's no, the level of sharing has gone down. I know people say like, yeah, we're closer together because we're virtually now more into it. Yeah, it's something that we have to do for the virus. But I, for one, definitely do not want to live like this for the rest of forever. I mean, then I might as well sign up and become an astronaut and go live on Mars. Then I can also every Friday Zoom, Skype you or whatever, like, hey, Adrian, how's it there on Earth? Well, you know, it's another nice day here at Mars. I mean, that's not living.
Mm-mm.
The,
No.
the joy from life comes from when we share, and especially when we can share in experiences like jiu-jitsu. I teach you how to do this choke, and you now learn how to do it effectively, and you go and use it. Or like with kettlebells, I mean, I taught you kettlebells, and you go and taught that guy that taught you trading kettlebells.
Yeah,
And tell me one thing I'm interested in knowing. So you would say you are a position trader.
Yeah.
The guy that taught you trading, what would you say? What kind of trader is he?
More of a day trader, funny enough. He was always
Okay.
more of a day trader, but also a bit of a, he had some positions and stuff, but he was more of a day trader. And I just realized that day trading didn't work for me. I didn't have the temperament for it. I thought I had the temperament for it, but I think what it boils down to, as you said, the joy in life comes from sharing, and the joy in life comes from learning. And that builds onto my own personal philosophy, not company philosophy, but personal philosophy, is find the joy in your life and let your life bring joy to others.
Very, very, very good. I so like that. That's like, definitely. I can definitely slap that on here on the wall somewhere. I like that.
Well, please do. You're more than welcome to use it, of course, if you so wish, because it all boils down to the same thing: find the joy in your life and let your life bring joy to others. Optionality creates optimality. See things differently. I'm all about changing the status quo. You know, whether it's for myself and whether it's for clients that I work with. One of the reasons why I became a financial advisor as well. Is also because I want to give people more optionality. You know, if you've got financial health, then you can enjoy life more optimally, because there's no point
more
in being
experiences. Yes.
Oh, absolutely, and I fully embrace this. That some people have this. I'm very hesitant to use the word wrong or bad mentality, but it's to me it's just a limiting mentality where they said, well, you know, I'm poor but I'm happy, and
fixed mindset.
Yeah, and I'm going to respectfully disagree with that. For one reason is that there's no virtue in poverty. There is no virtue in poverty. You know, it doesn't make you a more virtuous person. It makes you a more limited person. Because the fact is that you just cannot enjoy. I'm not saying you have to be a multi-millionaire or be super rich, ultra millionaire or billionaire or any of those things. It's great if you have that, but you don't have to have that. But if you can't even get the basics of your life sorted, how can you expect to lead an optimal life? You can't. And that is why I feel that financial health and physical health go hand in hand. Yes, health
it does,
may.
because they share very much the same thing. It's like you want to say to someone, like, look, you don't have to be an Olympic athlete, but I can promise you, if you bring your fitness just like 20 or 30% up from where you are now sitting on the couch, I promise you, you will live a better quality life. You will have more fun. I'm telling you, you will have more fun. Because right now you've got very little energy. There's not a lot of stuff that is good for you, even emotionally. And if you up that amount of energy into your life, and your vitality goes up, you will have a better quality life. And I can see where you plug in the financial thing, because it's very similar to that.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I go into it as well. And my clients are at the heart, are at the core of my of the advice that I give and stuff as well. Because the reality is, if I'm giving you advice on something that I wouldn't even do myself, why would you trust me? It's what
That's very true.
It's what Nassim Taleb always says: skin in the game. You know, if I have
That's it.
no skin in the game, why the hell would I expect you to listen to what I say, or even trust what I say? And it's exactly the same kind of philosophy in my training and stuff. If I go and tell you to go do gymnastics rings, but I wouldn't touch them, seriously,
Now, why should I listen to you?
what credibility do I have? Zero.
None.
That's how much credibility that I have. That's something that I've also really taken to heart as well. And that's why some people think I'm obsessed with training and stuff. Maybe I am obsessed with training to some extent, but it's because I know of the optionality that it has given my life in so many ways. And to me, it is that thing about find joy in your life and let your life bring joy to others, because and I base that on the ancient Egyptian belief. I got that from a movie called The Bucket List. Yes, I gain a lot of wisdom from movies. There are some very good movies out there. Now, I don't know if you watched The Bucket List with Morgan Freeman. And it's when they were sitting at the top of that pyramid, and Morgan Freeman said to Jack Nicholson, you know, the ancient Egyptians had a beautiful belief about death. He said that they believed that when you died, your soul was transported to the nether realm, and where you were placed before the gods to face judgment on your life. And you were only asked the answers that you gave. You were asked two questions, and the answers that you gave determined whether you were permitted entry. So they would ask you one question: have you found joy in your life? And the second question was: has your life brought joy to others? And that's why that's where I slightly modified that, and I said, find the joy in your life, and yet let your life bring joy to others. Because I'm of the firm belief that you can actually become very wealthy, even if you don't need to be a proverbial dick to become a wealthy and successful person. Far from it. Wealth is often created by the amount of value that you add to the people whom you serve. You know, that to me is one of the big things about wealth. And you can become wealthy by being a personal trainer. You can become wealthy by being a baker, a butcher, a candlestick maker, you know, to use the nursery rhyme over there. You know, you can do so much. If you add value to the lives of the people and you charge an appropriate amount of money for the value that you add, of course you will become wealthy, you know, because more people will actually be drawn to you. And it's not an overnight success formula, but it definitely is a formula for success or towards success. So I would like your thoughts on these kind of things as well.
So let me ask you, where do you get your clients from? How do I come to know about you? I mean, I know you personally because of the personal training, but I mean, otherwise, how would I know you exist? How would I know who you are, where you are?
Well, one of the things that I do now is that I use LinkedIn a heck of a lot to post things. I mean, I've got a newsletter as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got a newsletter, for instance, called Trading Optionality, and it's one that I do in conjunction. Black Heart Red Spade is also a newsletter, but this is a premium one, and the other one is a free one. So in this one, for instance, I charge £30 a month, and then we give really in-depth trading ideas and investment ideas and all those kind of things, give you continued support and so on. This shouldn't be about me promoting myself here, but these are the kind of things that I do. And one of the things about the podcast is to also show people the quality of people you must speak with, such as yourself, such as this guy that I had on yesterday, who's an internet entrepreneur. We were discussing business, you know, other guests that I've had on board. You know, it's about sharing ideas. It's about gaining insights and all that stuff. Because when people see what you speak of and whom you speak to, then they get a rough idea of who you are, because you can easily sit in a client meeting and tell them exactly what the hell they want to hear. But it's what they see when you're not sitting in that meeting with them, how you engage with other people, that shows them that shows them more depth to your character and the way that you truly are, versus thinking I'm being nice, he's being nice to me purely because he wants my money and nothing else. And that's
Well, that's the thing. If people get to know you through other people, like if I get to know Joe Blogg because Joe Blogg is a friend of you, I don't know Joe Blogg, but I know you. So then I sort of like get to have a feeling of the type of guy that Joe Blogg is because of you, because there's that trust that is built.
Absolutely. And your associations, the people you associate with are a reflection of the character that you have. People of character will not associate with you if you don't have depth of character yourself, unless you're an incredibly astute psychopath, and you can be the ultimate chameleon. But even then, I think that over the longer term, the social mask does fall off. You can't hide the truth forever from everyone. It just doesn't work that way.
No, that's very true. They say personality opens the door, but only character keeps it open.
That's the thing. And that's why, for instance, I like to engage with people such as yourself. That's why we've known one another for 11 years, because you weren't always just, I mean, our relationship started out as a trainer-trainee kind of relationship, but it also bloomed into a friendship, where we can talk about a lot of other stuff, as opposed to just lifting some weights and all that. And that's also the misconception that I'm trying to break, is that there's a huge misconception in the fitness and health industry that all personal trainers are just a bunch of muscle junkies, or they're just a bunch of drug junkies and stuff. And that misconception does exist. Or it's like, what could I possibly learn from this guy other than, how to become fitter or stronger? Oh, you'll be surprised by what you can learn from a variety of different people. It's just such a fixed mindset. Or you can't be that smart if you do that. Really? How do you know that? No, but that is what I've encountered before, is that people often think, because if they see me in the gym, they don't know the work and stuff that I do. They think, oh, so you are one of these fitness junkies. Oh, I'm not a junkie of any kind. I don't inject fitness or anything like that. I just happen to enjoy it. It gives me optionality to my life. It gives me joy to my life, and all that stuff. So yeah, I hope that kind of answers your question in terms of, why I do what I do, how I chose the things that I've chosen and stuff, and the well-rounded, holistic approach that I try to form from it.
I really enjoyed this conversation, and I really enjoyed speaking to you. But I might have to say goodbye now, because I'm going to do a Zoom training session with a client now. But,
no, that's fine. It's perfect timing. Marco, it's been fantastic. Really, so Marco, tell everyone where can they find you? Use this opportunity.
Okay. If you are in Melkbosstrand, you can definitely find me. Almost everybody here in Melkbos knows me, because I've been here like forever.
And that's in Cape Town, by the way. So that's in Cape Town.
That's in Cape Town. Yeah, sorry, that's in Cape Town, South Africa. So if you're in Cape Town, South Africa, in Melkbosstrand, look me up, Marco Wentzel.
Yeah. Any websites that they can visit, or do you?
No websites. Just personal training, one-on-one. Yeah, that's pretty much all I do.
Marco, it's been a pleasure talking with you. I'm sorry that I talked so much. I didn't expect that to happen, but it was fun speaking with you, and thanks a lot for your time. I really appreciate it.
No, I appreciate it. It was nice talking to you, Adrian. It was nice to see you again and catch up.
Absolutely. Cheers, my friend. Have yourself a great day. Enjoy your session.
You too. Bye-bye, Adrian.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.